So January has come and gone, and the only album review I've put out so far, I believe, is my Dream Theater review. You can find that right up there. But I wanted to talk about some of the other albums, new albums that I've been listening to in January and the first bit of February, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a rapid fire. These are a bunch of records that I wanted to review, but I didn't have the energy to do so. So yeah, this is going to be some recommendations. All these records are great. You should go and check them out. I've left the link of each one down below for anybody that wants to check them out or be spoiled. So all of these are in alphabetical order just so that nobody gets kind of top billing just because of whatever. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of quickly breeze through these, and I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys find something new to listen to, because that's the whole reason for this. And yeah, let's just dive into it. I'm going to have the album artwork beside me, so I'll just move over a little bit just to give you guys a little bit more space with that. So the first one I want to talk about is Spectrum by Am I in Trouble? This is a new album from a new band as far as I'm concerned, and it's fine. I think it's getting quite a bit of praise and quite a bit of notoriety. It's a little bit harsher. It's got that kind of metal tinge to it, and each track is like a different kind of color in the same way that like the color spectrum from the Deer Hunter was. It didn't necessarily grab me as much as I think a lot of people have, but it was an interesting idea and an interesting kind of project. I would like to see where these guys continue on with, but it didn't quite grab me as much as I was hoping to, seeing how many of my contemporaries are gravitating to it. So it was interesting, but not quite my jam. Next one I want to talk about is Ethal, Cain, Perverts. This one's being touted as like an EP, even though I believe it's like almost an hour long. I absolutely adore this record. I wanted to do a full-on album review of this album, but I feel like I've kind of missed the boat a little bit. I really liked Ethel Cain's last project of being, accessible, not quite pop, but like that kind of indie style of music, but it being very sharp, very poignant, and dealing with some really heavy content. This one is where if that heavy content was put to music, there's a lot more atmosphere, there's a lot more drone on this one. Heck, tracks just kind of go away while still maintaining sounds. And for me, who loves ambient sounds, loves ambient music, and just loves soundscapey stuff, this was a real treat. I do feel as if, the passive listener could get frustrated with this because not a lot happens in these longer interludes and these longer ethereal passages. But for me, who loves that kind of stuff, I felt very rewarded and very like we're on this bigger journey, and I really loved and gravitated towards that. If that sounds at all interesting to you, then I would highly recommend checking out Perverts. But if what I just said just sends like nails on a chalkboard, then yeah, maybe save this one. Maybe save this one. All right, keeping on the train of pop, because man, I've been loving pop. Let's go to Victoria Canal with Slowly It Dawns. Once again, we're kind of continuing that trend that we got from 2024 of this really punchy, really impactful, very memorable, and very enjoyable pop music. I just love how inviting and how accessible this is. It's got that groove, it's got that jive that I really enjoy. California Sober is a perfect example of what I'm talking about for this album, where it's fun, it's punchy, but then you get tracks like Totally Fucking Fine, which has this punch and it has a little bit of these teeth to show like under this shine and under this bubble, you've got some sharp edges. You've got these like, dark aspects to it that you're not necessarily finding. And then with How Can I Be a Person, that has these really interesting and dynamic lyrical contents that I really enjoy. I also love the ending, having a 1-2 punch of Black Swan and Swan Song. I've been really enjoying this one. If you're a fan of more of the accessible indie pop side of things, kind of continuing what we had from last year, then I would really recommend checking this one out. So yeah, that was Slowly It Dawns by Victoria Canal. Let's go to Uncommon Ground by CKRAFT. This was one that really knocked my socks off. This was a metal, jazzy kind of flavor, very proggy jazzy. Think of like Between the Buried and Me or Reina Kindo, but like up the metal quite substantially. I love the avant-garde presentation of metal on this one. I love how quirky and strange. We've got a whole horn section on this that really helps to flush out the music on here without it becoming like too derivative or too out of left field. Like, it feels very proper in the musical landscape that's found on here. I've been coming back to Uncommon Ground more so than a lot of other albums on this list, but yeah, it's still a very, very fun treat and one that I have been coming back to. All right, let's continue the pop side of things with Louder Please by Rose Gray. I don't know if this is her second album or not. I mean, this is the follow-up to her album from 2021 of Dancing, Drinking, Talking, Thinking. And I love the more 80s electronic dance side of things that we have on here. This is something that I would feel very at home being in a Walkman, being on like a power walk, It's got that groove, it's got that styles, it's got that beats that I really enjoy, and I've just been really digging this one. It's very like accessible and happy and pleasant. Sometimes you just need that, especially in the current world that we're living in. Sometimes you just want that fun bop, and that's what this album provides. I think my favorite couple of tracks are like Switch and Party People and Just Two. It's got that immediacy. It's got that get up and go. When you don't want, for me who loves metal and, prog, when I just kind of want to put my brain on the back burner and just let my body take over in terms of the grooves, this one's a great time. So if you're like me and you want something like that, go to this album. I think that you'll have a really good time with this, as I did. It's just a lot of fun. This is a very, very fun record. Let's move on to more proggy stuff, because I know this is a proggy channel. Let's talk about the Steve Hackett live album. Live Magic at Trading Boundaries. This one was an interesting one. So Steve Hackett is always putting out new live albums. He's always on tour. He's either doing at this point, like a 50th anniversary or a 50th anniversary of a Genesis album, or, he's like, oh, I'm going to do a combination of, Seconds Out stuff with my own personal stuff, always kind of drawing to the well of Genesis and beyond. But this is one of the few ones that kind of shakes things up. This is his kind of like Mediterranean sky, very like acoustic guitar first and foremost, and I love this one. This is one of the first live albums that kind of piqued my interest, because I can only listen to Supper's Ready so many times being performed live. I can only listen to, Get 'Em Out by Friday or Squonk or Blood on a Rooftop before I'm like, okay, I've heard it enough, so at least with this one, you get Blood on the Rooftops, but it's only a minute and a bit before we go on to some more interesting things. All the tracks on here are very short and very punchy. I think the longest one maybe goes into the 5 or 6 minutes. But the bulk of the runtime of these tracks are like 3.5, 1.5. Very short, very punchy, very interlude before it goes into something else and something different. And the main star is Steve's guitar work and his acoustic guitar work. And that provided something very fun, very interesting, and very new that, we get bits and pieces on his studio works, but we don't really get a whole lot of them whenever he's doing like the Genesis Revisited side of things. So I really enjoyed that particular aspect on this, and I really enjoyed his playing with new things. It's still drawing from the same well, but he's presenting it in a new way. So yeah, this isn't necessarily for like the diehard Genesis fan. This is more for the diehard Steve Hackett fan. So yeah, it was a great time for me. I would recommend it, but I also want to give that little bit of a caveat that I feel like some people would be, I think, a little frustrated with this one, have just how subdued and how chill this album is. So yeah. All right, let's talk about You Are the Morning by Jasmine 4T. This was continuing my kind of pop sentimentalities. This one's a little bit more singer-songwriter. This one's just kind of like the lead vocals and guitar at times. It's a much more subdued record, but I love the subject matter that's found on here. It's very personal, it's very intimate, and at times it can get a little bit uncomfortable, but if you're along for the ride and you like this more singer-songwriter, kind of indie styles of music, then I think you'll get a lot out of it. Honestly, after I kind of digested it and listened to this, 3 or 4 times, I'm like, okay, I think I got the juice out of it. You know, I don't want to come back to this tree and keep shaking to see if anything else falls out of it. It's one of those kind of like, okay, I've got it. So yeah, but if that seems like it's your jam, then I would definitely go and check it out. All right, let's talk about one that I'm really excited to talk about. That's Tempora Mutantur. Tempora Mutantur by Lunar. This is a new one from me. Very great prog metal. I just love this one. It's aggressive. It's got that kind of death, extreme tech style of it. You know, they're definitely drawing from the wells of a BT Bam or a Hackett or, you know, a Leprous or that kind of a style, without it being completely derivative, without it being a complete copy and paste. I really like how they are playing with this genre and putting their own spin to it. You know, the album itself ends with the title track across 3 tracks themselves. I do wish it was a little bit longer, especially when you have part 1, 2, and 3. And you're only really coming out with just over 10 minutes worth of music. I wish that if they were doing a part 1, 2, and 3, they would get to at least 15 or 20 minutes. But that being said, I still love the ebb and flows. I love the passages of this one. I think my favorite track is Spring in My Step. Spring in My Step. It's a little bit more accessible. You know, it doesn't have those harsh growls that a lot of the tracks do, or at least not as much. And I love just how immediate this track is. It's very accessible. It's very inviting. And it still has those noodles. It has that like aggressive tinge to it. So yeah, this would be a big recommendation for anybody that's a fan of Between the Buried and Me, of Hackett, more of the aggressive side of the prog metal. I think you'll get a lot out of this one. And I had a blast with that. So yeah, that was, once again, Tempora Mutantur by Lunar. All right, let's talk about the first disappointment of the year. Unfortunately, that goes to Mogwai with The Strange Fire. I was really looking forward to this one, especially with their last album being practically my favorite record from the group, as well as the singles that were coming out. I was really grooving to it. I was really excited about it. And then when it finally dropped, I just felt like it didn't move the needle too far forward. You know, it didn't have that excitable experimentation or those really catchy and really immediate licks that I love from Mogwai. Like, I come to Mogwai twofold, one for the build-ups and 2 for the soundscapes. And I felt like the build-ups were less than stellar on this record, and the soundscapes I wasn't all that excited about. So yeah, this was the first kind of disappointment of the year for me. And I know a lot of that was the expectations that I was bringing to it. But, you know, with a band like Mogwai, who've been around for 30, 40 years at this point, I got a little bit of expectations. I just wanted a little bit more from this group. So yeah, that was The Strange Fire by Mogwai. So let's end this little video off with The Weather Station with their album Humanhood. This one kind of came out of nowhere, and it was actually recommended to me by my buddy Nathan on Shuffle. And it's a Toronto-based, a fellow Torontonian. This one's coming at you with Tamara Lidman, I believe is her name. This one is hauntingly beautiful. Think of like a Mariana Sankima, but with it being a little bit more I guess, singer-songwriter. Like, Tamara's singing style is very subdued. You know, like, you wouldn't hear her belting out a track. This is just her kind of very intimately. It almost feels like she's at this very quiet jazz bar, and she just has a few other individuals helping her out. It's just her, the piano, and these constructions of these very intimate and very powerful tracks. I've been really enjoying this when I've needed something very chill, very vibes, very, just good vibes and very chill vibes. And, in the heart of winter where we're at right now, it provides a perfect kind of soundtrack for a very, gloomy, overcast, but snowy kind of a day. This provides the perfect backdrop for that. I can see a lot of my fan base, especially those who love metal and prog, getting a little bored and a little frustrated with this one. But for me, that likes, some subdued and chill vibes, this was right up my alley. I kept coming back to this one when I just needed that nice warm cup of hot chocolate. That's what this album feels like. So Yeah, I would recommend it. I would honestly give it a spin. That was Humanhood by The Weather Station. And that concludes this little bit of an album roundup. Those were 10 records for you guys to check out. I hope you'll find something in here to enjoy. And I think that's kind of where I'm going to leave you for right now. So that's it. Those are my 10 albums that I've been kind of grooving to this past month. Let me know what your favorite was, what your least favorite was. Go and check these one out. You know, even something that you don't think you'll completely connect with. You know, like if you think, maybe I don't want to try Rose Gray, Louder Please, give it a spin. You know, maybe you want some of that kick up the jam and, you know, really bouncy. Or you're like, I don't think I really want that experimental Ethel Cain track. Just give it a spin. Maybe it'll connect with you. Because, you know, half the music that I really, really love were from bands or artists that I heard about. I'm like, maybe I'm not quite in the mood for that. And then I listened to it and I got blown away. So I hope you guys find something really fun to listen to out of this bunch of music. I hope you found something, you know, that connects with you. And I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. And I hope you guys are, you know, keeping space for your own selves. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.